Joining me now is former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce and Rowan Dean, the former Labor National President and advisor to 3 Liberal Prime Ministers. Warren, I want to start off with your take on the state of this election campaign. Okay. Is all hope lost for the Liberals? Are the Liberals about to be crushed under the weight of Labor's lies and ineptitude?
Well, I'm out there every day, probably doing 2 or 3 electorates a day. Yep. The feeling on the ground in the last week and that have been really good. The workers are working really hard. The candidates are working really hard. Look, I don't understand the large numbers. Like 43 to 50
in the polls,
53 to 47 in the polls. That's a complete wipeout. I don't see that. I think it's what's going to be really big in this election is preferences. The second and third preference is going to play a massive role in the seats, and also because even though the two-party preferred in the polls looks great for Labor, their numbers are still low.
Yeah,
they're in the 30s, and so that's what's going to win this election is if you can pick up the preference.
So how should people of the right or Conservatives be putting those preferences?
Well, I say to all those group people on the right that they should be, definitely making the coalition 2 in their vote if they're going to put their own people first. Definitely do that, because otherwise we're going to end up with 3 years of a disastrous Labor government.
Barnaby, we do not want 3 years of a disastrous Labor government. There's a lot of talk going around, people already looking at blame game and who they're going to blame if the coalition loses and so on. Maybe that's a discussion for a later day. Do you think the Liberals, your partners in the Liberal Party, have fought a good campaign?
I think that this has been a tough campaign. I think that I've always said there's only been one one-term government in the history of Australia. Scullin, that was at 29 to 32, and you know what? This is always going to be tough, and we've got to do the very best job we can. I think there's a couple of late burners here. The unrealised capital gains. You paying capital gains tax on something that you had no intention to sell, and you haven't actually sold, but it's just on the books that you might have made a profit if you had sold it, people are just getting hold of that. The Labor Party have finally cracked into your super nest egg. Little bit of like death duties there, only you don't have to die for it. It's like death duties without having to die. That's what we're getting without the unrealised capital gains tax issue. And Annika Wells backing up what Penny Wong said the other day, and they still believe in the voice. The Australian people don't, and these are slow burners. And the sort of that way, the patter of elections, things are good, then they're bad, then they're good, then they're bad. But I think right at the end of this campaign, it's actually starting to go bad again for the Labor Party. Unfortunately for us, a lot of people have already voted.
I think that's a great point, Barnaby, about Annika Wells and Penny Wong both coming out saying that a Labor government, in essence, will bring in a voice, or certainly allowing themselves the opportunity to do that. Have a quick listen.
The voice is gone. The Prime Minister has made that clear, and the Australian people have made their position clear, and we respect the result of the referendum.
The voice in the form that we took to the referendum is gone. We respect the opinions and the votes of people. They made that very clear, but we're always looking for ways to help First Nations people and for that policy to be tangible and credible.
So, Warren, the voice in the form that we took it to the referendum, they're going to bring back the voice, aren't they, Warren?
Of course they're going to bring it back. It's in their DNA. They can't get it out of their system. They want to do this. They're totally ignoring the Australian people in what they want to do. And this is one of the big things that's come out now, and and on the polling booths, I've been around, just come back from Newcastle, and everyone's talking about it. They're talking about the Spain as well. That is our future. Spain, what we saw happen in Spain
this
is
the
our
net
future.
Zero, the blackouts. Yeah. Barnaby, I want to ask you about that, because even Tony Blair, the left-wing former Prime Minister of Britain, is saying net zero is a disaster.
Look, this intermittent power fantasy, so-called renewables, intermittent power is a disaster. It wasn't just Spain, the whole Iberian Peninsula, just lights go out. And then they say it's atmospheric reasons. Well, yeah, the atmospheric reasons is not enough wind blowing, not enough sun shining, I suppose. They're probably atmospheric reasons. And they're like the nirvana of where you want to be with this intermittent power swindle. And it's Tony Blair's now out there. You've got you've got the left wing in Canada. Everybody's arriving at this epiphany that intermittent power just does not work. Not unless you want to live in a cave.
So Warren, where is Chris Bowen? Why isn't he out there defending them, saying, "Oh no,
they got him out. They got him out in a nullarball in a cave about 50 metres underground, tied up and gagged." That's where they got him, mate. It is a disaster. This is where we're heading. This is the policy they're heading with, and they're talking about it's destroying our manufacturing industry. It's driving up our costs. It affects every area.
Barnaby, seriously, did the coalition go in hard enough? Should the coalition have said what I said all along, that the moment Trump pulled out of Paris, they should have said, and you know what, we're going to put net zero to one side, we're going to see what the rest of the world is doing. And surely that would have allowed this to be forefront in the election campaign, where it deserves to be.
Yeah, well, I think that we've just got to get through to tomorrow night, and then I suppose other people will have discussions along the way. I'll say what I can say. 82% intermittents. Stop calling them renewables. They're intermittents. They're swindle factories. They're devastating in the New England, and they're disastrous for the pensioner who has to pay for it. And they're driving our manufacturing jobs out, and they're making you poorer. They are definitely making you poorer. And with China stooging around our coast, working out how they sort of track the place out. There's some interesting articles in the paper today about what was going through their social media, like through their social media in the Australian, quote my source, where they say, well, people in social media were saying, oh, is China about to do to Australia what Russia did to the Ukraine? Hear that, listen to that. That should just say to us really one wild thing, and that is get as powerful as possible, as quickly as possible. Wake up, realise the world you live in. And that's the discussion I think we need to have down the track.
And just quickly, Warren, can Australia wake up in the next 24 hours?
Look, it's for us to get out there and fight for this. We've got to keep on hammering away at it. There's a chance we can do it, but we've just got to keep on getting out there and getting the messages out there and making it clear.
As Warren Mundine says, fight, fight, fight. I've heard that somewhere before. Thank you, Warren Mundine, and thank you, Barnaby Joyce, and good luck.